Okay, I gotta do this again. Um, okay, after I talked to Will, the next day I had called my daughter-in-law Dixie. Everybody knew they were threatening my life. Okay, I'm in the cold, dark night, first thing in the morning. I, I'm like, Dixie, I need you to stay out of this. She said, but Karen, they're threatening your life. I'm scared for you. I'm scared too, and I had to reverse the tears. I hear the word, kill it. Okay, I hear beep, beep. My security system went off. So, I'm like, Dixie, I need you to stay out of this. I can hear footsteps. I'm like, Dixie, no matter what, promise me you'll stay out of this. But Karen, they're threatening your life. I'm scared for you. I'm scared. And she's like, and I said, but you gotta promise me you stay out of this no matter what. And she's like, Karen, I'm so scared for you. They're threatening you. I'm scared too, but you gotta stay out of this. Men, that's not what's going on. Everybody out. And I'm like, Dixie, stay out of this. I got off the phone with her and somebody broke in my house. Okay. I called my sister up and she's like, Karen, you call the FBI on those churches for threatening your life. I said, Pam, these people are crazy. One's told on me. They have a copy of my phone. I said, I'd have to get a prepaid phone and call you at work. They're this crazy. She's like, what? I went, never mind. Stay on this. She didn't realize I called the FBI. I told her last year. She's like, when'd you call the FBI? I said, 18. It was 21. She did that. Okay? Alright. With in 10 days, Dave's out on the phone and I hear him. He never knew I knew. Dixie and the baby are next. They'll teach Josh a lesson for letting me down there. He is so angry he cut his hands off so he couldn't work anymore. And fourth, there's a list, and they'll move on to they want next. I guess. I called Will, and I get his secretary. She yells out, Willie's got a list. I'm working on it. Last time Meredith was. See the guy on down the road, and he takes off through the side woods. No, some idiot from Ravenna showed up last month, and where I called it secretary, said they had the boys from the courthouse drive by. They didn't see anything. That woods goes for miles. Okay? And just driving by, you wouldn't see anything. Just lay down. It's thick. Well, right before it started, I was laying in bed and there was this bird that would sing. It was beautiful. And I'd lay there and listen to it. And one day I looked up and a rose being thrown over a tree. And I'm like, what's that? And a scope was lowered to where I was laying. I got them close the curtain. Okay? And I looked on the other side of the bed for you. I even forgot to tell him that. It took me about a half hour to get him to move over. Okay? And open the curtain back and it was gone. Well, I had took a picture of my backwoods July 1st, 2018. And I wanted to see if there was more scopes in the trees. So I'm scanning through that picture and blowing it up. And then there's a deer and has a set turn. And I move it over there's a man with head, glasses, and a shoulder staring at me. He had men positioned in the woods. That's how he knew I was at the end of the driveway when nobody was around. Michelle Kagi lives at 124 Lennox. I lived at 128. She had told me that there was 2 men watching my house before I moved out. And I lived on a street with trees in the middle of it. And so cars would go up and down real fast all the time. And it was a bus route. And so it was very busy. And she said every time a bus or a car pulled up, they take off. They could have sat across the street at the corner store or the restaurant parking lot and watched my house. But they sat at the end of the driveway and would take off. He already had him at Lennox watching me. I said, if I know, I would have called someone. Okay? Within 10 days, Dave's on the phone. Dixie and the baby are next. They teach Josh a lesson. He was so angry he could cut his hands off so he couldn't work anymore. And for there's a list in the room on to the index. And I told you I called the secretary and she yelled out, well, he has a list. Then I seen the guy. And it took off to the sidelines. Okay? Within 45 days, I had got on 62, where Dave said he had a man to shoot me if I ran. A van pulls up, a guy lifts the gun towards my head, starts pulling the trigger back, and it was like a 007 movie. I was slam tucking and swerving, and he's all over the highway, and so am I, and he's going forward, and I'm going back. And I pull over, and I'm crying like crazy. It took me a long time to get myself together. The officers from Ravenna show up inside Walmart 62. She almost got shot. You gotta pull her out. You can't pull her out. We have to leave her in high danger. And they're arguing by the registers in Food Counter where all the real good cameras are. Okay. Failure to protect his abuse and misconduct. Okay. They were breaking in, stabbing me with needles. And I'd have injection marks, and it's documented. I weighed 212 to 217, October 1st of 18. And by February 24th, I weighed 150 pounds. There was times I had up to 8 bruises on my legs in 1 week, where they'd break in and stab me. Okay, hard telling what was in those needles. They would come up to me in Walmart. We always knew you were innocent. Don't you remember the sodium pentothal? And I look at it. Okay. Tell someone you're arrested. And I'm like, who are you? What were you doing? Okay. I walk on. Okay. I faced 6 stalkers inside Walmart. After I almost got shot driving, Dave chicken winged my arm, knocked me on wood railing, and punched me twice in the stomach so hard it caused permanent inflammation. I had went down to Altman emergency room because I was in so much pain, and I seen a group of them down there, and I thought they were there for me. And we do an address change. We go sit in another section. One of those officers stand up. She say anything crazy or stupid? She's like, no, she just did an address change. We go in the back. Now, I have internal injuries and a damaged ribcage. I haven't been in a car wreck. So the only way you can get that is someone beat the hell out of you for that traumatic of injury. The doctors look at me in the eyes. I'm looking at him. He's looking at me. He looks afraid. He looks at me. He looks at Dave. He goes to leave, and one of those officers from Ravenna are out there. She says anything crazy or stupid about people threatening her? He said, no. He said, I'd like to ask her some questions. He said, she's not talking to anybody. She needs to rest. And you don't realize what's going on. Okay. Those officers show up at Dr. Rapika's office and more. A lady shows up and goes in the back, who yells at an angry mother. Who yells at an angry giant, but a mother. Someone who loves someone more than herself. Because I called Dave an angry giant on one of my videos that I was afraid of. Okay. By December 9th, we're in Wendy's, Maslin. There's a hit on my brand new granddaughter's eye. There's a group of men in there that later on claim they're handlers. I didn't have one. They're yelling at me to give my jewelry back. You heard me. I said give it all back in front of everyone in Wendy's. And I'm looking at this beat. And I thought, if I give it back, I'm going to leave her alone. It was 18,000 in jewelry. Getting things out of fear and death and threats on life is illegal. And I went home and told him I didn't want him anymore. They show up December 16th or 18th with a tall white guy that's bald with a red beard, claiming he's some kind of handler with no badge, and a crazy blonde lady claiming she's a psychiatrist and they're actors. And they had no badges. They were just writing. They were the ones hurting me. Okay, so okay. My daughter-in-law, Melissa, goes to that call. And because there was a real threat of life case, everybody was following everybody around. They got Melissa telling the kids to lie. And on Thanksgiving of 18, for the house wasn't meant for Grandma, it was meant for Auntie Shell and Papa. And Grandma needs to get out. And then later on, they were making everything up, all kinds of sick games of pretend. They're documenting games of pretend. Okay? Everybody knows they lied. Okay? I'm gonna stop for a second.